This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, it's my pleasure to welcome an old pal to the show. We go back to 2018 or 2019 or so, back to SportsCon that we attended at the same time, and we've been pals ever since. So welcome to the show, Fantasy Sven.
What's up, Kev? You're part of that small group that one of the first people I ever met in the entire industry. I mean, I don't even know if you were even podcasting at the time. I think you were just a fan, right? Like you were just a commish and like just with that red jacket. I saw that red jacket.
Yeah. I was a fantasy football enthusiast.
Enthusiast is definitely that's an understatement.
Yeah, we did have a little commute from Seattle down there. You were in Texas, so it was easier for you to attend. But talk to me about that. Like originally, what brought you to Texas, and then how did you discover SportsCon, and what made you decide to do that?
Yeah. So my brother, he had the opportunity to move to Texas, right? I mean, I grew up in New York, 25 years. Moved here when I was 25. I quit my job, left my girl at the time, it was a tough decision, but I made it happen and I moved to Texas. And then some years later, my brother ended up moving back to Jersey, actually. So, but a couple stops in between, so he's up there right now. What's up, brother? And SportsCon, we actually started. So I guess, I could segue into a little background about that. I got excited and I dropped my mic because the fantasy fam right here.
Yeah, that's right.
So a fun fact about me that's most people in the industry probably don't even know about is that I had a podcast with my brother and cousin. We called it the Fantasy Fam, hence, right, brother, cousin, years ago, right? Like I think it was back in 2024. So 4, 5, 6, 7, like 8 years maybe or something like that. 7. I forget when we started it. We had the idea, right? And it wasn't as easy to start a podcast back then. And you would think, right? Less than 10 years too, like it has grown so much like throughout the years. And we did it for about 3 to 4 years or so or something like that. And then unfortunately had to, stop it. But that's what originally brought me to SportsCon. And then I ended up meeting you fine gentleman right there, and we've been pals ever since.
Yeah, it's wild to think back to those days. There's so many people that were there, like at SportsCon, and then the year before at the National Fantasy Football Convention. That's where SportsCon essentially was the follow up to the National Fantasy Football Convention. But there are so many people there. I'd say the NFFC had so many industry people, like Matthew Berry was there, Stephania Bell, the fantasy footballers, Brad Evans, Brandon Funston, Liz Loza. I mean, the list goes on and on. There were so many people at NFFC, and my a couple friends of mine went down there, and we met a ton of people. And then following up the next year, going to SportsCon, they kind of changed it up, but it was great because we got to meet you guys, and things kicked off right away. I was looking for my friends at that kickoff party. One of them was missing. He was up on the rooftop with you. So good times, good memories for sure.
That's right. Oh my God. Yeah, that weekend it was fantastic. It really was. And it's a shame that we had to end our podcast, but I mean, it is what it is, but it just, I rather enjoyed it. And now there's a lot, right? There's a lot of them out there and everything. And I kind of wish like I would have at least kept it going, in some capacity or did something of that nature. Right. I mean, I had my little shows in between and whatnot, like up until now. But it was a blast. It really was.
That's awesome. So growing up in New York, talk to me about, when you fell in love with sports, some of your earliest memories, favorite teams, favorite players, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Cowboys, right? I mean, I feel like everybody was a Cowboys fan, right? Because they were America's team. I feel like everybody loved them. Like I actually like people that didn't like that were Giants fans or whatever, like Eagles fans, like I feel like everybody didn't mind the Cowboys. Yeah, they were winning a lot in the 90s, but then it just So I had a starter jacket. I remember my starter jacket. I actually had a Giants and a Cowboys one, I think, because I mean, what? I'm a little kid. What do I know, right? So Emmitt Smith was my favorite player. He really was, and I just loved watching him play. And then I saw him in Little Giants, and I'm like, this guy can act too. Like what can he do, right? So I Cowboys through and through for football, Yankees, Devils, and then I don't even watch the NBA. I guess it would have been the Knicks, but
That's it. That's it. So, do you have like a major sports loss or an experience as a fan, the biggest loss you've had?
I mean, as all Yankee fans, that year that falls between 2003 and 2005, and I just don't like saying that year because that's probably one of the worst losses in like sports history. I feel like not just being a Yankees or a Red Sox fan. I mean, you're up 3-0, and you literally have a guy that there's been more men on the moon than Mariano Rivera's ERA in the postseason. Like and they lost. So that was absolutely awful.
Well, I mean, at the same time, I mean, as a Yankees fan, you've won a million championships.
Exactly.
But it's funny. It is
exactly.
It's one of those things where you lose it to that team, right? Those Red Sox.
It couldn't have been any other team, right? Exactly. It had to have been the Red. It had to be the Red Sox.
Yeah, I wish it was the Mariners. You'd feel better, and I'd feel better about it.
Right?
I love it. How about a favorite all-time sports moment?
So a favorite all-time, and I was actually thinking about this too. I had to go pick something up for my wife, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a long story longer, right? So it's March. The Yankees, they offer some package, right? It's basically you get like a plaque, you get a T-shirt, it's like a certain amount of money, right? I think it was like $250. But the caveat of it was you actually get to purchase one field level seat, like one game for the year, which just buying the package for that, I mean, those tickets go for like $200 face value at least. So choose that for me and my brother. I'm like, yo, let's do it. Can't choose Boston, can't choose Mets. That's fine. Let's choose another rival. Let's choose the Rays, right? So we want a day game, Saturday, July 9th, 2011. I believe it's 2011. I choose this game 16 rows back from home plate. I chose this game in March. What happens in that game? Derek Jeter hit his 3,000th hit home run, and we were 16 rows back. I'm getting chills. Like I'm getting chills like talking about it right now. It was absolutely unbelievable because the whole place, everybody's just going, gee, I'll send you the video actually. I got it on my phone. It's unbelievable.
I love it. That's what it's all about.
Nails that home run and the place just went. I thought the stadium was going to fall apart.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. No, that's a good one for sure.
Yeah.
I like
Do you have one? Do you have one as a kid or recently?
I mean, I if I had to think about it, I mean, obviously the Seahawks Super Bowl, when Percy Harvin took that second half kickoff back, I had a house full of people and that sealed the deal, right? Like we were still facing Peyton Manning. It was a phenomenal first half, but crazy things happen, 28-3 Brady. We just saw we just saw Detroit up 24-7, right? So anything's possible, especially against Peyton Manning. Although I'd say the LOB, I mean, you're pretty safe with the Legion of Boom. But when Percy Harvin took that kickoff back, it was over. Like we knew it. So that was pretty special, and I'm sure I could think of several more. But that really stands out. I will also say that the next year, Packers, same thing in the house. Packers Seahawks games. Russ was horrid. The Seahawks were in trouble. Down. I forget. I mean, gosh, what a few times. 17 points probably with a couple minutes.
Yeah.
That comeback. The house erupted. People were just losing their minds. People were tearing off their shirts and screaming and rolling on the floor. So that Seahawks run was pretty special, and those are definitely two of the biggest. I would say my least favorite moment was when Marshawn did not get the ball because I was there. It was painful. It was awful. So, but I could go on forever. I mean, I have some great memories with Griffey and stuff back in the day. And
sure, yeah, right,
yeah. That's what sports is all about. Good memories. I like that for you. It's cool that you were there. It wasn't just like your favorite team won, but you actually experienced such a special event.
Right?
I love that.
And what are the odds that game? Because like that Friday night game, like he was 2 hits away, I think.
Yeah.
And the Friday night game before, because I was at my brother's place in the city, got rained out too. So we looked at each other after they called him. We're like, "Yo, is this gonna happen tomorrow?"
That's awesome.
And it did. Yeah.
My favorite Jeter story was that I was at a game once after the game, or no, it was before the game, and me and my buddy were at the Mariners game, and we were watching Jeter sign some autographs, and then we watched a couple girls like slip him their number, and so that was pretty funny. That's it. That's all I saw. I could tell there was an exchange, and
some sort of exactly right.
yeah. So that's funny. I love it. So when did you fall into fantasy football? When did you discover the game? When did you start playing?
I mean, I can't pin. I mean, I guess I can kind of pinpoint, right? Like to show a little bit of my age. I remember the format. Do you remember? Because like it was ESPN or ESPN, right? Maybe Yahoo. I think there was like not many fantasy things out there, right? There was not many platforms. It was very limited. And I remember the ESPN format. Like I thought it was so cool. They had the live, right? I mean, I know everybody checks on their phone, but like when you only had a computer, it was fun to like run into the room and watch it update, as it was happening. So like Warwick Dunn days, you know what I mean? Like Edgar and James, Eddie George, right? So I mean, I know those are a little bit like, but I kind of maybe started playing like in high school. It wasn't really a thing. Like it was popular, but I feel like I didn't know enough people and we didn't talk about it. Where it was like, oh, hey, we're gonna do fantasy, and then my brother and I, all we did was like just play it for free leagues and all that stuff. And then I'm like, wait, you could play this for money?
I love it. So when do you remember like some of the early content that you consumed, like when it comes to content creators and analysts out there, do you remember following anybody early on?
I mean, so like there was pretty much, right, like it was just ESPN, at least back then, right? There was no social media or anything like that. So it was pretty much ESPN, and then it evolved too, right? When we got the podcast, and then I was like, oh, I need to create a Twitter, in order to get my name out there, right? Like, I mean, you really couldn't do much if you didn't have a Twitter or anything like that, which it helped, right? I mean, we didn't obviously have as many listeners as we would have liked, but hey, you got to start somewhere. So one person in particular, I'm giving him a shout out, I'll tag him in my post too, is Mr. Pat Fitzmaurice. We had him on the show. He was one of our first guests too, and it was great. I mean, he really is a down to earth dude, and I loved his content. Like, because again, there wasn't as many people, right? I mean, like let's say there's 1,000 people right now, like there was maybe 100. You know what I mean? Like back then, like maybe even less. Like there wasn't a lot. So Pat Fitzmaurice, man, he was definitely one of my, like, I guess you can say inspirations or anything like that, of like just watching his content, because he was so concise. Like he just has a way about him, right? And it just, his presentation, his like delivery was like, I was like, damn, this is awesome. Yeah. And then I would learn. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I mean, shit, I'll see you at the expo this year, Pat, right? We'll be at George's, all of us. So it was great to like actually see him, because like when I said I'm Sven, the first time I saw him at the expo, like, and he was like, holy crap, biggest hug ever. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I mean, seeing you after that so long too, I was like, I texted him like, dude, where are you? Where are the Seattle boys? Which you guys better make it this year. Huh?
Oh, well, I mean, you don't have to worry about me, but it's the other two, right?
I know you're going to be there. Hell yeah. We got to get those. We got to get them on that plane, right?
I'm working on it.
I guess, I mean, I learned from a lot of people, right? Like some people aren't in the industry anymore, I mean, and some people have grown, like my boy Murph over at 5 Yard Rush. I met him when he started out, right? Him and Stocks, the two guys that basically started 5 Yard Rush. I remember doing a show with them on like a Saturday. I think they were at the pub watching Arsenal, and me and my cousin, we did it. I hope it's Arsenal. I'm sorry if I'm messing that up. I every time it's either Arsenal or Liverpool. I can't remember. And they were doing we were doing a show while they were in the pub, like watching the match. I was like, are you kidding?
Awesome.
Like, this is awesome. Yeah.
Oh,
So like
good.
just learning from other people too, and I mean, I had joined Sleeper Wire at the time. Right. So like, it was just, I met a lot of people, and like, it just talking to everybody and figuring out like, hey, what works for you? What works, and like, so it was, yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. We've seen a lot of people come and go, in the space, in the community. But
Mm-hmm.
you're right. I mean, it's just getting better and better every time you go to the expo. It's just it's even more special because you develop these relationships with people that at one point you just kind of knew online, right? So it's been fun. It's been fun to see you kind of evolve over time. Right? Talk to me a little bit about what you're doing with IBT, how you found In Between Media, like. Talk to me about all the details.
Yeah. So I mean, I have such a unique, I guess, like movement through the industry. I mean, started with the podcast, right? Then we joined Sleeper Wire. Then we were kind of there, and then we just were pretty much like, that was when we actually axed our podcast, and we were like, you know what, we're done. So I was kind of a free agent at the time, and I'm like, all right, well, I kind of want to still do content, I mean, I know some people already, right? And I got to give a shout out to Miss Lauren, stepmom. She also, I've known her for years too, right? She was one of our first ones on the show. She was actually a repeat guest, and like, she definitely was one of my inspirations as well. Sorry, I had to give a shout out to her because she's from back in the day, and it's awesome that I still have a relationship with her and everything. Like, we text, like talk about her, like her clothing line, right? She has her attire and all that stuff. So be sure to check that out. With stepmom Lauren. And then I actually joined Rum Boys after that for a little bit, where I did a baseball podcast. And then after Rum Boys, there was kind of a connection made. Robbie actually made a connection with Seth, and Seth was like, hey man, I want to, we met each other, like, I think at the expo this will be the 4th year, right? So 3 years ago,
Yeah.
I met Seth, and I was still whatever. And then all of a sudden, I think like I just left, and like, he was like, hey man, he's like, I'd love you to join IBT. So sure, why not? Because it's not just football over there. I mean, we talk movies, we talk life, we talk like, dude in our network just wrote an article about the Oscars. Like, who's gonna win, right? Like, he did a Grammys. Like, there's like, so we're pretty much everything, right? We're from football to life, like, and everything in between.
And to cooking.
Huh?
So cooking. Talk
Yes,
about
and in cooking too. Yeah.
Yep. Talk to me about
So
that.
So the cooking, yeah. I mean, I got an inspiration from a friend. He was the one that actually was the catalyst. He knows who he is. And he was like, why not just cook live, or like do like, instead of sitting at your desk, like, why not in the kitchen or something? I'm like, that's an idea, right? So I started, I had the first episode, and I was like, this is interesting, but then after the first season, right? I mean, like, after that last episode I did a couple episodes like in September. It was a lot of work, for like one person, and then having everybody, because then I gotta like, the other people have to commit to, which they know, right? I mean, I fully let them aware of the situation, right? Like, hey, we're gonna be cooking a full, you know what I mean? Like, there's some preparation. It's not just a podcast where you can kind of wing it, you know what I mean? So So I did that, but it's kind of, I'll say on a hiatus. Will I bring it back? Maybe. Maybe some part of it, you know what I mean? Like some percentage of it, but probably won't do the cooking live thing with anyone, maybe. I mean, I don't know. I have some ideas that I'm gonna potentially work on, right? So I'm trying to deliver more food content also on my Instagram as well. Sven Cooks Food.
Nice.
Yeah.
But
So
live has got to be tricky though, right? Like, did you ever have any like disastrous moments trying to get that going?
No, I mean, the one issue that I really had, right, is because I've worked in kitchens before, like, and I mean, I know how to have my brain like cook and also talk. You know what I mean? Where like I'm moving and like I'm doing the two things at once, and it's completely seamless.
Nice.
So at least I had that going for me. But my audio is the number one issue, like for every show. But the food, every time the food actually worked out pretty well, because my whole thing with that particular type of, like a live show, right, is like you go on Instagram, you go on all these apps, and they show you like, oh my God, like this is perfect, like you're literally seeing 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds, and then like, wow, that looks like the best sandwich ever. But like, what if my onions don't come out like yours, or like what if this doesn't, and that happens for a lot of people, right? So like that's kind of what I wanted to also bring to the table too, is like I mean I messed up some things a couple times, like I didn't cut something a certain way, or it didn't cook the way I wanted. But then I kind of like talked about like, oh well, you know what, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, so I was kind of like, I'm not a licensed chef, I'm not, you know what I mean, I've been out of practice for a long time, but like I gave advice on the things that work for me, so it was like take it or leave it. But so yes, I mean I guess nothing really disastrous though, I guess, to actually fully answer your question.
No, that's good. That's great. No, I mean IBT is great. Like you touched on, the variety of things you can touch on, and so I'm sure it's a great place for you to be, have some freedom to do different things. And again, I mean the team there is awesome. Tell me about working with Seth and the rest of the people there.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's great. I mean, our chat, we're active every single day. I mean, talking shit to each other, just like asking questions, and like, I mean, it really is. And I think I mean, as you can see from the people that are in it, right? It Seth has a certain, he looks for a certain person, right? And if you're not a good fit, I mean, hey, that's just the reality of it, right? Like if you're not a good fit, you're not a good fit. Like there's nothing. I mean, but like I think everybody, like it meshes well together, And I still can't believe how young Seth is. Like, I think he's like 25, 27 or so. And I'm like, what? Like, every time he's like talking, I'm like, there's no way. Like, he definitely sounds very mature, like more mature than me. And I'm a little bit older than him.
He's got the it factor. I love Seth. I think everything he's doing
he's driven.
Is pretty special. Yeah, for sure.
Driven is a one word if I could use to describe Sethy over there.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to the game of fantasy, like tell me about what you love most about playing the game.
It's just, I mean, what I think you've learned too, I think what we've all learned is that we don't know that much. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to say it's mostly luck. Like, yeah, some guys, I mean, perform week after week, right? Like you don't have to play that guessing game, but some of us have injuries. It happens, right? So like I think the uncertainty is like kind of I kind of like I like it, like about week to week, right? Because like you're like, you know what, I'm gonna start this guy. Like in one dynasty, I mean, I think I have Tannehill was literally my only starting quarterback in this one dynasty. It's super flex, right? He gets benched. Richardson gets hurt, so I have Minshew, and then Ritter is the starter. So I also have so I had Ritter. But like, you know what I mean? Like certain situations, and I'm starting some of these, and I'm like, Minshew's actually not bad. Like it's just So I think the uncertainty and I just love that guys can make a name for themselves, at least in the fantasy world. In NFL, some guys, yeah, they do good for like 5-6 weeks, in fantasy, but then after that, we don't hear from them.
So do you have like a favorite setting or format in fantasy?
I'm starting to like Dynasty, right? We're in that sports con, right? I keep forgetting because like I'm not that active in the chat or anything like that, and I always forget that we're in that league together, right? But I think I'm in four dynasties. There's a bunch of us chefs from fantasy actually in one of them, and I think this year we're going to implement. I'm really going to push for it. We're going to implement a food punishment, for whoever finishes in like last place, right? Like spoonful of cinnamon or a hot chip challenge, or something food related. Yeah.
I like it. I love it. Yeah, we got the Dynasty League together that all spawned from SportsCon. A bunch of people that went to that had an origin at SportsCon. put together a league, and it's been going ever since. It's been a wild roller coaster. We've had some strange things happen.
A little bit, yeah.
I think about one team that was, the guy trades all of his picks for like 3 years. The roster's still, you don't know how it got to how it was, and then he just disappears.
Yeah,
but we're getting through it.
I mean,
it's part of
it
that
happens,
history, right?
Exactly, it happens. I mean, what can we do?
I love
But
it.
Dynasty,
I love it.
I like this. I like the Superflex. Actually, I'm starting to dig the Superflex because I feel like there's definitely some strategy, but like it's like, do you go for? You know what I mean? Like there's like, could you wait on QBs? But then like, I mean, this year you definitely could have waited on some QBs.
Yeah.
Like were better than some of the top ones. So I think a Dynasty Superflex I actually really dig.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And then when it comes to, I guess, yeah, I would say that the more variety you have in leagues, the better. I love implementing, stuff like Superflex or like a guillotine league. Those are fun. There's a lot of different ways you can play fantasy, and for me, it's it's mixing it up, and I'm sure you would agree. When it comes to the community, though, like talk to me about a little bit more about the expo, that experience. What made you decide to go out to the expo that first time, and what's it been like ever since?
Yeah. So I mean, when I found out, right? Like I mean, I live in Texas, right? And I think the NFFC was in Texas, right? Like, wasn't it
Yeah. Yeah.
that the fantasy football convention? And I saw it online and I was like, wait a second, this happened 5 months ago in Texas and I didn't go. I was like, are you kidding me? So when I found out about that, I was like, oh man. And then and then SportsCon, right? But then, I mean, it was all right. Meeting everybody, it was absolutely fantastic, right? I mean, that was the highlight. It was the first draft night out, right? We had the first draft night out at Topgolf in Dallas. We chilled with the Ballers. Those dudes from the Ballers,
yeah, that was fun.
That was
good time.
Awesome. So SportsCon happened, right? And then I think all of us, we were just like, we'll stay in touch, but I don't know if we're gonna go again next year, right? We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
A few years right? Like a couple of years later, COVID hit, and then Bob was going to do, I think, the expo, right? And then I think it got canceled, and then he did it that year after. And I looked at my wife. I was like, she was my wife actually, yeah, at the time. I think we were like a year in, and I'm like, look, I was like, I gotta go. I'm like, I have to. I'm like, it's just, I gotta make it happen. So went the first year. I mean, mind you, I knew Kate and Michelle were there. Our buddy Nate Nate Hamilton.
Yeah.
It was great seeing him, right? I mean, it just so we at least had that connection, right? And like some people you met on Twitter, obviously, and everything, because like everybody was on Twitter because of COVID. So like that's where a lot of content creators came from, right? Like the COVID years. So meeting, I mean, it was so overwhelming. Like the first day, I think like that everybody, like when we first met I mean, I was like, this is unbelievable, right? And like, and still to this day, I mean, we've been 3 years in a row, right? We've been going strong 3 years in a row. This will be our 4th year.
Yeah.
Everybody is insanely nice, right? Whether somebody has an attitude with you or not, it's not really shown. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's just, I feel like there's just, sure, there's drama, whatever, right? I mean, but like the vibes and everything. Everybody's so excited to see each other. I mean, the experience is really like it's incredible. Like it really is incredible. Like I'm so excited to see you in August.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And, like you said, every year it just gets better and better. I think it's just because people are getting, are closer and but yeah, no, it's as good as it gets. If you haven't been to the or if you haven't been to the expo, you got to get there.
You gotta go.
It's the event of the summer, right? And it's not easy to get to Canton, Ohio, so it takes some dedication. But at the same
unless
time,
you can drive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Local. Yeah, exactly.
Or live near a small airport, right?
Yeah, there you go. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll just throw out some questions. You let me know what first comes to mind. The origin of Fantasy Sven, where did that name come from? What's that all about?
So I mean, my real name is Anthony. Not many people know that.
Breaking
So
news.
Sven's a nickname that I've had for. My brother started it with a family friend growing up. They gave everybody nicknames at like the Jersey Shore. We used to go all the time, and I was Sven. Right? I think it originated in elementary school.
Wow.
And ever since I've been Sven. Like I have it on my class ring. I mean, everything I do, like I have Sven. I mean, my friends from back home, like my best buddies, their whole families, everybody calls me Sven. I couldn't tell you the last time anybody actually called me Anthony, like back home. So I was like, you know what? People are going to remember Sven more than they're going to remember Anthony. So I was like, you know what? Let me just run with it. Let me just, because it's a unique name, right? You don't hear in the
Yeah.
States that
Yeah.
often, you know. So I was like, let me go with Sven. I respond to it. I use it. You know what I mean? So it's literally just like an alter ego, basically.
Yeah, but
I'm
it's
Jennifer. I'm
you.
Jennifer Gardner. I'm Alias.
I love it. What do you love most about what you're doing in the industry right now?
Oh, I mean, right now I'm kind of right. I mean, my son he's a lot. You know what I mean? He just turned 1, and I'm not like using that as an excuse, but I mean it is. It's a lot, right? You know, he's only
Yeah.
one. It's only one. I mean, we want to have more, but uh, so I'm kind of on a hiatus. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to end up doing. You know what I mean? But I think I potentially see myself. You know, I'm going to probably maybe try to write some articles, right? Get into that world. Um, do some video content with some food, and then hopefully help them with some back office, you know, like back end stuff, right?
Yeah.
For the network too,
With
within
IBT.
my capacity, of course. Exactly.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. What are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of sports?
Uh, I love to golf. I haven't golfed. I've golfed once since he's been born. I used to go for, like not frequently, but a decent amount. I'm a big Call of Duty Warzone guy. I've been playing Fortnite with like my boy Ronnie Evans over there.
Yeah.
Hoove, shout out Hoove. We got like a
Nice.
Fortnite chat going. Like it's crazy. Hutch is in it.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. So like, I mean, I love playing video games, relaxing, watching shows, going for walks like with my little man. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I would say
I
that's it
love it.
for now.
Fatherhood. I love it. It doesn't get better than that. What's your favorite dish to prepare?
Ooh. Okay. I would say my wife, she actually would probably say this is probably my best dish. Shout out to Paulie, my father. It is his Hungarian goulash
Ooh.
that I make. Yeah, I mean it's literally just meat, slow cooked with onions, a shit ton of Hungarian paprika. And that's the key ingredient. Beer, salt, pepper, and sour cream, actually. My father
Okay.
uses flour to thicken it up, but I put in sour cream, which I got from my aunt, his sister. My father was born in Austria, so he brought that recipe. Then my opa, it was my opa's recipe, so I'm keeping it alive.
I love it. That sounds good. I love
Yeah.
every part of that. What's the last TV show that you binged?
Oh, I literally just finished For All Mankind like
Okay.
yesterday on Apple TV. I don't know. Have you watched it?
No, not yet.
It was interesting, right? I mean, it's basically like some what ifs, you know? Like,
Yeah.
what if USA wasn't the first ones to land on the moon? You know, like, oh, what's going to happen, right? So, like, 4 seasons, it's a good watch. I mean, Apple TV rarely misses, right? Every show is pretty much good.
Yeah.
So, For All Mankind, though, and I'm rewatching Peaky Blinders again, actually.
Okay.
I just
Okay.
love that show.
Nice. Do you have an all-time favorite TV show?
I mean, Peaky Blinders, probably, I would say.
Okay.
I'm also rewatching this. I'm rewatching it, but my wife is watching it for the first time. The Sopranos. I would say probably Sopranos is probably the best show of all time, and I love it. I mean, it's great.
I love it. I love it. How about favorite movie all time?
Ooh. If I have to go recent, like a newer one, I'll say Inglorious Bastards,
Okay.
or old school, The Sting.
All right. All right. All right. How about a
Yeah.
favorite
The
sports
Rob.
movie?
Ooh. Hmm. I absolutely, and I haven't seen it in a while. Maybe I'll watch it tomorrow in the background at work. Remember the Titans?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just right. It's just a classic, you know. I mean, I could literally go on. Like, there's so many good sports movies, but Remember the Titans. It just has a special, like, he's so good, Denzel.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I love it. What's one thing that you're just really grateful for at this time?
Probably my son. You
Yeah.
know, just turned 1 a couple of weeks ago. I mean, he is. It's unbelievable. It really is. Like, I'm upset that we waited as long as we. You know what I mean? Like, if I knew now what I know back then, you know, like that whole saying, and like.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is, right? Here I am. I'm 37. I have my first child, so. But I'm so grateful for him and my wife, obviously. But my little man is just.
It's awesome. Good stuff ahead too. You got many fun years. You know, if he's one, I mean, it's gonna
Yeah.
get better and better and better. So that's exciting. Love to hear that. You know, again, so happy for you and on that front. On another front, let's talk about the Super Bowl. Like, what's your prediction? Who do you think is gonna win it?
I want the Niners to win, but I think the Chiefs are going to win.
Okay.
Like, I just, I mean, it's definitely a different Niners team, right? When they played the first time. Um, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know why people shit on Brock Purdy. I have no idea. I don't know where the hate comes from. I mean, the guy was literally the last pick, wasn't
Yeah.
meant to do anything,
Yeah.
and he's this. I mean, I understand but he filled in last year. Like, he could have fell flat on his face.
Yeah.
He could have just been like this. All right, sure, whatever. But Kyle Shanahan is a system guy. I mean, he's made him look. He's taken him to the Super Bowl. Like,
Yeah.
that's insane. You know, like, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. So, I hope it's a good game. Um, I don't know. I'm gonna say 27-20, 27-24 San Francisco, and my
Ooh.
man Jake Moody, go blue, kicks the game-winning field goal.
There you go. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I love it. I love it. Now, obviously, you started back in the day, Fantasy Fam. Again, I remember it well. You've had several different bouts to different places along this journey. Name some of the people out there. You've definitely hit on some people during this show. Some of the people out there that just had a huge impact on you during your run through this fantasy industry.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Pat, right? He was awesome. Another one actually who we had on the show and love talking to him. I haven't talked to him in years. Maybe he remembers who I am. Joe Pisapia, Joey P. He was always like, I just loved taught. Like, I think he was a guest like a couple times. One, because he's also from that area, like he's a New Yorker, so we had that connection and everything. Like, so it was great when we had him on the pod. The more I got involved, right? I definitely just love what you guys are doing over at Football Guys. I love Joe. I think that
Yeah.
he's got a great thing going on over there. Great group of guys.
Yeah.
And just not obviously I don't try to like emulate, you know what I mean? But like I think like it's just he's just a great dude. He's got a very successful site, and it's just and he's so humble, and like he always has a smile every time I see him and whatnot. And I want those shoes, right? I know I'm probably not going to be. Everybody's probably waiting in line for those. But everybody at IBT, honestly, like I learned something from every single person, right? I mean, another man, and I haven't even told him, is my buddy Bo. I love Bo. He's great.
Yeah.
It was awesome to meet him in person because he does so much, right? He's incredible at golf. If anybody wants to get into DFS or betting on golf, follow him and Connor. They do their 19th hole. I think it's on Tuesday nights, actually. And golf is literally just starting up. So they were on fire last year. But Bo is definitely one of my, because he loves cooking too, right? He started a
Yeah.
business during COVID.
Yeah.
His hot box match, right? So,
Yeah.
and him and we might be collaborating on something soon too. So
I like it. I like it.
more to come on that, or none at all, and then it might just appear out of nowhere. But yeah, so I think those are some of my inspirations right now.
I love it. I love it. Now you've obviously been doing some content creation along this path, and it's cool. I mean, you've done it in a way where you balanced out your normal life with doing some things here and there. There's a lot of people out there that want to do more in the fantasy space. You've had a podcast. You've contributed at different sites. What advice do you have for people that are looking to get more involved in the fantasy space?
It's definitely changed, right? Since I started, like I said, like it wasn't, I mean, to start a podcast was, we had to go through a lot, right? I mean, we definitely went through a lot. Like you had to, I mean, we were on Apple, like literally public radio, or radio public or whatever. Like we were on almost every single, but like I had to make sure, like I had to like go above and beyond to do that stuff, right? Now it's a little bit easier. It's a lot more streamlined. I would say you just got, if you really want to do it, be consistent. I think consistency is a big thing too. If you tell everybody you're going to drop a show Tuesday night at 8:00, make sure it's every Tuesday night at 8:00. You know what I mean? Like people, mind you, there are obviously people out there that are like, oh, maybe there's no show tonight. You know, like, okay, that's like, they're still going to listen, right? They're not going to be like, no, that's it. I'm done with the show. I'm boycotting.
Yeah.
But I would say consistency, and always try to improve. You don't have to go back and watch your shows. You know, you don't have to go back and watch every single show. If you want to, sure. Like that's great, right? I was the one that edited our shows, so like I at least got to listen and hear on how we can improve, you know, for the next show, right? And I still have no idea how this guy got as big as he is, but like clearly he did something right. This Mr. Beast dude, no clue how, like, right? Where did he come from? But I watched one thing. I watched an interview with him actually, and all he said was, he was like, look, he's like, okay, great. Like, don't go for views, you know, like, oh, this show got this many views or stuff like that. Okay, that's great. He said every single show that he did, he said he got better within the content of the show, right? So he made one show, I'm going to do it better next one. Every single show he got better, and then that's how the followers, I believe, started following. Like they just started coming, right? And also don't dumb down your content. I've seen like maybe a few people say this, right? Where if you have crap content, you're going to get a crap audience, right? So elevate yourself, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to, so just make sure you just have good content, right? That's it. Like I think that's, because then you're going to get good listeners, and then people will want to come back.
Great advice. I love it. Absolutely good stuff right there from the Sven. I love it. So is there anything else that we haven't covered before we close things out here?
No, I really hope to get more. I'm going to get more food content out there and everything. My wife is also on a very inspirational, motivated 2024. This is going to be our year, the year of the Reiners.
Nice.
At Reiners, Mr. and Mrs. Sven. But yeah, I mean, more content. I'm gonna be pushing out more content. Hopefully, I can get more following on my Instagram as well. I know I got a decent one already on Twitter, X. But yeah,
let's go. So where can the viewers and listeners find you?
Yeah, so on X, Twitter, I'm at Fantasy Sven, and then on Instagram, I'm Sven Cooks Food.
There it is.
So look, yeah.
Make sure you follow my man. He's a great guy. You know, he's a great guy. Every time I see you, buddy, I love it, and I look forward to each year heading back to Canton, making sure that you're there. You know, because I know I got to bring my buddies. You know, they've been missing out on their time with you. So
and now my brother comes too. So it's like just more. It's more of the SportsCon crew, you know. Yep. So they gotta come. They gotta come.
I just know that I'm gonna be sitting there somewhere in Canton, and I'll turn over, look one way or the other, and I'll see your brother's big smile looking at me, like I look forward to those moments. Moments. Got the best is yet to come in 2024, my man. Can't wait to see what's up for you this next year, and I'll see you in Canton, my friend.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.